Yo, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another installation of What If Deku Had the 10 Shadows technique. This is going to be part 2 of the series, and if you guys are enjoying this series, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell down in the description so you guys can get caught up with all of the newer videos that I will be posting and everything along those lines. If you haven't already, please make sure to go watch the first part so you guys aren't confused on the events that are going to be happening now, but I'm going to assume that you guys have already watched that and that's why you guys are here. So please just, do whatever you guys gotta do and get prepared for this video. But with all of that said and done, please enjoy. A couple days after the quirk assessment that Aizawa held, we would be inside of Class 1A. The students would just be doing their normal things when the door would just barge open and All Might would slide in. He would go, "I am here," and all of the students would be completely shocked that All Might's here. Deku obviously would be just chilled out and had already known that All Might was a teacher here, so he wouldn't have even been bothered whatsoever, as he would be calmed down and everyone else would just be very confused and just excited on all of this. They would not really know what's going on, but All Might would just tell them to kind of get their stuff ready because of the fact that he's going to be doing like kind of like the hero versus villains. That's what we're about to be heading into, obviously. So everyone would head over to where the event would take place and get on their hero costumes. Obviously, Deku's hero costume is going to be quite a bit different because he has no influence from somebody like Inko, and he would easily have something way different. The hero costume he would be sporting now would be something more akin to what Aizawa's hero costume looks like with the scarves, because Deku does have that as a fundamental part of his hero costume, along with it being more reminiscent of the newer version of his hero suit in the story, minus any of the All Might memorabilia and homages that he normally had. This looks more like a calm, cool, selected stealth suit that is very perfect for being in the shadows and being more of a hidden figure, which is basically what Deku is trying to obtain. So once everyone would see all the hero costumes, Deku's probably would look by far the coolest, and everyone would be like really like thinking like, oh yeah, this hero costume really does look cool. It's not that same hero costume that Inko made that looks very like homemade. It looks like a very professional suit because Deku made sure to get this suit done by the people from UA instead of having him be the one to do it himself. As so, after this, they would start getting all the teams ready, and all of the teams would just remain the same just so it doesn't affect anything on my end and I don't have to like come up and think of all of these new different things. It's just the exact same teams and somewhat different outcomes. Specifically, the different outcome being when it's Deku and Uraraka versus Bakugo and Ida. This would go quite a bit differently, only due to the fact of, well, instead, this time around, it is just very much a situation where Deku and Bakugo already know each other so well. So when they're doing their entire fight and like once they're like both coming up with their strategies, they know kind of where each other's going to be going in their mind. So the strategies are way betterly done. And even once they enter in, Deku really knows Bakugo well enough that he knows Bakugo no matter what's coming straight gunning for him. So instead of it being like an ambush on any side, they're just both ready for each other. They have their entire brawl right there and then, and Deku would still end up ending the winner. And Bakugo would very much notice that Deku has gotten quite a bit stronger since the last time that they sparred around 10 months ago, because they'd both been doing their own things for that little while and only had been able to see each other every now and then just for like having like some food whenever they're doing anything like that, or just like going out and like Bakugo coming to his house and Deku coming over to his house, one of those two. So it's just one of those main small situations. When it comes to like actually dealing with the bomb on their end, they deal with that fairly easily. Just because Deku has such a good strategical mind, he'll be able to just easily deal with that and come up with a very good way to settle that situation without any very big problems whatsoever, as all of the other events would go very, very easily and very, very similarly to the way that it needs to go. Deku really wouldn't even have to use any of his shadows this time around, just because of the fact that it wasn't really necessary, and he was just trying to have more of a time to utilize his cursed energy and his energy manipulation, because that's usually the thing that he struggles with most. He can easily use the shadows anytime, but the cursed energy is one of those things that's usually a little more tricky for him to get down, so he's been working on just upgrading and enhancing that to better and better capabilities. If you guys do want him to eventually unlock or awaken a domain expansion, please put that down in the comment section below, and comment down what you guys would want the name of it to be and what you guys would want it to look like, because I'm not going to make it look the exact same as Megami's. But obviously, after this would all take place, we would head into the USJ event. This time around, obviously, All Might's still not going to be there, and he's still not going to come until quite a bit later. So by the time that everybody would be coming in to the USJ, it would be almost the exact same situation. Not really any of them knowing quite a bit on how to deal with any of this. So they would all be separated the exact same way, and Deku would still be with Froppy, but obviously Minetta's not here, so he's not there to like kind of be with them on this time around. Deku would handle this fairly easily, because let's be honest, he really wouldn't even need to jump into the water. He would just grab Froppy and just jump straight over it fairly easily, since he has his cursed energy and he has one for all, so he can use it enough to jump over without damaging his body in the slightest, which really just would be a big help for him. His main goal would just be get back to Mr. Aizawa and make sure that everything is going fairly well. So that's exactly what he would do. He would make it back to Mr. Aizawa extremely quickly, and as soon as he would join the fight alongside with him. Aizawa obviously would not want this, but he understands that Deku's probably the only other person in Class 1A right now who would be capable of fighting on at least an equal footing with Aizawa in a lot of the sense. So they're both working together, fighting. Deku's actively having to use quite a bit of his shadows that he has access to, and he's just maneuvering around, taking care of them, because his strength is fairly decent. And obviously, once like the Nomu comes in, that's a very different story. Deku's not able to defeat a Nomu just yet, and we could easily have it be a situation where he sees Aizawa is getting kind of extremely injured and he's getting extremely worried. So it would be a situation where he might want to unlock Maharaga. He knows that this Nomu is extremely too much challenging. He doesn't understand, like he doesn't know when Ida's gonna come back, or like when anybody's gonna come over from the heroes to stop this. So he's just more or less worried that he's not gonna come in time. But luckily, like right before he's actually just like about to summon Big Raga, help me, or like do anything like that, All Might would barge through the door, and that situation would kind of resolve itself the same way that it did in canon, with just a little less of Aizawa being injured, because Deku was there to help him quite a bit. Deku was dealing with a lot of the other villains, and Shigaraki was just still injuring Aizawa to a decent extent, but not anywhere near the level that he was injured in canon. Obviously, Deku at this point is not strong enough to deal with Maharaga as of yet. Once he like gains access to a couple of the other quirks and he gains a little bit more strength, he'll be able to deal with Maharaga and actually tame him. But as of right now, Maharaga is still his own wild card, so Deku knows not to use him whatsoever, because the first time that he used Maharaga, and that, because like I'm just gonna say, Maharaga is just this thing that Deku knew like how to unlock, but he just always had the feeling not to. And when Deku was younger, like when I say after the point that he's already met All Might and he's already like talked to like a couple of the other pro heroes, he summoned Maharaga, and it took a combined force of at least 5 to 6 different pro heroes to take down Maharaga to a decent enough extent quickly enough. This had to be an All Might. This had to be some of the top strongest heroes, and take down Maharaga enough for it to go away and everybody be fine. After that, Deku knew not to use Maharaga unless it was an absolute necessity, unless it was an absolute knowing that if I don't use it now, a lot of bad things are going to happen. And the Deku obviously knows that he needs to learn how to control this, so he's just trying to work up until he has enough strength to be able to do this. As once the USJ would be over with, Aizawa, as I already said, would be in far better standing. He would still need to go to the hospital a little bit, but not anywhere near the extent that he was during the original event. So the Class 1A would have a little time of a break, but so they could recover and recuperate from this traumatic-ish event. As obviously Deku would need this time to recover since Aizawa is very much not okay right now. And eventually we would get to the beginning of the UA Sports Festival. This time around, while Class 1A is in their class and they're trying to leave, and Class 1B and a lot of the other people are right out there blocking their way, it is very similar in the terms of how it looks, but obviously it's not gonna really bother Deku whatsoever. He'll just drop into the shadows and dip right out behind the entirety of the group and just keep himself walking. He is not trying to be bothered by this whatsoever. And that's literally exactly what would happen. He would just maneuver his way out of it, and Bakugo would say whatever Bakugo would say. Obviously, just him being calmed down quite a bit would just still go a little bit you extras, or a little bit, nothing too major, nothing really more of him just playing around and eventually getting to the point where they just all make their way out fairly quickly. And we then actually get to the day of the UA entrance exam. Obviously, this time around, Deku actually being the first person in terms of the UA entrance exam to be at number 1, he would be the person to give the speech, and he would actually give an extremely nice speech. He wouldn't say anything like the way that Bakugo would have said it, oh yeah, I'm gonna be the one to win this. He would actually give a full-on good, respectable speech that leaves everyone okay, yeah, this is a well-rounded kid. This isn't a psychopath. This isn't a complete idiot the same way that they would have thought Bakugo was. This is an actual well-rounded kid that is knowing what he's about to be doing. So it makes a lot of sense for everyone to actually really like him, and everyone would have no problems with this. All of the events for the UA Sports Festival would still be the exact same without any difference whatsoever, strictly because of the fact that there is no reason to change that specific fact. Changing that literally makes no reason, it makes no sense whatsoever to change any of those events. So we would just kind of get everything started. Obviously the first event being the race, and as soon as the race would start, that crowd that piles up automatically wouldn't even be a factor for Deku. Deku would just jump up and see the closest shadow right at the front and just take that spot and start pushing it alongside Todoroki. They would just both be going straight past and running straight at full speed. And eventually, once they see the 0-pointer, Deku and Todoroki just easily take that out without any second hesitation, and they both just keep on pushing it, gunning it. Them two are just completely taking the center stage, and Bakugo is right behind them. This time around, those three are neck and neck the entirety of the time. The entirety of the time, those three are neck and neck, just right next to each other the entire time. Eventually, once we get to the minefield where everything would have normally gone, this is where Deku actually takes it into a second gear. This entire time he has been going at a decent pace, but it's not him going at his full pace, because this race is fairly long. If he had just gone full blazing the entire time, it would have made no sense, because of the fact of he would have just wasted so much energy, and he wouldn't have had any energy by the end of the race. So at this point, this is where he starts he pushes a little more of One for All than he's normally able to handle. Nothing like that's gonna injure him too badly, but just enough where he's able to push past Bakugo and Todoroki just slightly, to the point that he ends up winning this first event. The next event would go fairly similarly. Deku obviously having the $1 million bounty on his head would cause a lot of people not to really want to work with him, because it's just going to cause a target on their backs too. So Deku would end up with almost the exact same team. Everyone knows Deku's quite a bit stronger, and they know and understand exactly what Deku can do. But they're still not obviously trying to push a lot of those things. Bakugo, being a lot more friendly, still's not going to join Deku's team because he wants the competition, and Todoroki's on that exact same wave. There is no conversation between Todoroki and Deku talking about like, oh, your powers are very similar to All Might's, because Deku has shadow manipulation, and Todoroki already knows that Aizawa is Deku's father. I don't know, and I don't think Deku would have even mentioned the fact that it's an adopted situation, because that's not really anybody's business, and it really wouldn't make any sense or matter to discuss on anybody in the Class 1A roster. So it just would be him and everybody thinking like, yeah, Aizawa is just Deku's dad, and that's the end of the story. So Deku's team would be the exact same this time around, and the main difference is the fact of Dark Shadow being right with Deku. One, that is a fairly good combination. That's going to be a very good combination for them anyways. And also, Deku would just end up using a lot of his shadows to kind of create a little extra 2 people to come around with him. Deku would be at the top, and one, that's just because he is the most strong out of everybody there, and they're not even going to be worried about trying to grab any points. They're just going to be worried about retaining their own point. Deku would have the twin wolves right on each side of him, which really is causing a lot of defense. And he probably would even just summon the elephant and have all of them, just kind of be right on it, and call that the day, as a little situation for them to not even get touched by any means by any person on that. They would be able to retain those 1 million points the entirety of the time, and nobody would even be able to get close to them at all. They would be very just maneuverable in all fairness, so that's the main reason. So after this, we would obviously get to the one-on-one fights, and almost all of the one-on-one fights go the exact same way besides any of Deku's. Obviously, when he has to go against somebody like Shinzo, he would still be warned due to the fact that Shinzo has these weird abilities. So he would kind of understand, yeah, don't talk, and that's exactly what he wouldn't do. He wouldn't reply to Shinzo at all, and would just take Shinzo out immediately without even saying a word. He would make sure that situation doesn't even happen, and that situation wouldn't even be a very big factor at all. It would just be that entire situation, them having no real issue whatsoever, and them just kind of having their fun with a lot of different things. All of the rest of Deku's events would, all of the rest of Deku's fights would go quite a little bit differently, because Deku would just win all of those fights outright. He would struggle with a good sort of them, but a situation like this, Deku has a lot more control of One for All. He's not getting injured whatsoever, so he's actually able to beat every single opponent that he's going to have to go against without any real problem. It's not any situation where, oh, my arm's broken, I can't do anything now. He's easily able, if he has to go fight Todoroki, he's able to beat that. Once he has to fight Bakugo, he already knows Bakugo's entire moveset. So there isn't even a situation where he would be struggling with Bakugo to an extreme high expectation. Todoroki would be the biggest challenge, and Deku would get Todoroki to use his flame side, strictly because the Deku knows ice is not going to do enough to him to even bother him. He's able to punch through the ice fairly quickly, and his strength and speed are just easily able to outmaneuver him. So he literally tells him, you're going to have to use both sides of your abilities, and he still gives Todoroki that same speech that he gave him in canon, just to tell him, yeah, bro, you're not beating me if you don't go full out. So you may as well just go full out so we can kind of get this over with. as that's what would basically happen. Endeavor would obviously be ecstatic to see Todoroki using his flame side, as that would be just kind of a more reason that Endeavor would like Deku, for obviously the fact that Deku is quite a bit stronger compared to almost everybody in Class 1A, so that's another reason. So obviously, Deku would end up taking the win with the entirety of Class 1A, and like in the entirety of this UA Sports Festival, he would be the person that won the entire thing, causing him, for all of those internships, to be the one that gets the most opportunities compared to anybody. Deku has a defined quirk. He's not getting injured, so nobody's scared to pick him. Nobody's even like considering like not picking him. He gets a lot of opportunities, and he has so many people gunning for him. There is no reason for him to go to Gran Torino because of the fact that he easily has control over One for All, and he doesn't need Gran Torino to teach him anything specifically. And so he just chooses somewhere else, and I'll actually let you guys choose where he goes to. But with all of that said and done, I will leave this video off right here, and I'll just like see you guys in the next video. If you guys did enjoy this video, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you guys can get caught up with all of the latest videos, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.